So I thought I was going to have to retire this prop hat, but since I just found out that I'm far right, bringing this bad boy out of retirement.
Supreme victory!
So about a week ago, I saw a tweet from Shoe on Head where she was like, oh, hey, there's this research paper that categorized all these YouTubers, across the political spectrum. And guess what? Your girl is far right, along with a bunch of other people. And when I saw the list, the first thing that popped out to me was the Snark tank. And I was like, oh, that's cute. You got this podcast that's apolitical, featuring myself, Tom Sweeney, two black men, and then you got a Puerto Rican. So it's like the odds of us being far right is pretty slim. And the funny thing is, though, we actually kind of ran into this problem before. There was this podcast that I guess they had the same name, but then they changed their name to Contrivance, and they actually explained that, oh, we don't want to be associated with white nationalists or something like that.
This is wonderful news. What prompted this decision?
Well, some other turds already had the name The Snark Tank for their show.
Yeah, and plus ABC was really on our nuts about some dumb TV show. I'd never heard of it before, but they were pretty up in arms about it.
This must have been a difficult decision for you. Did something happen that forced your hand?
No, not really. We just didn't want to be associated with potential white nationalists.
Yeah, Huff My Shorts, other Snark Tank.
Powerful stuff.
So that was pretty funny. We laughed that off. And now here we go with this. We have a list that is showing, oh, the Snark Tank is actually a far-right podcast. So that's pretty cute. And some other people were quick to point out that, oh, not only the Snark Tank, you yourself, you're on it. And which I'm not surprised, right? If the Snark Tank's on it, of course my channel would be on it. So you saw some black guy. And not only that, you saw my side channel, Black Chad, is on there. This channel started off as being just a review channel, and reviewing some music, posted a few memes, and then I started making apolitical commentary, just like a handful of videos. I'm gonna revive the channel sometime next year, but I've been busy with music and whatnot. So it was pretty interesting to see that on there, but which also led me to think, well, with the amount of YouTubers that are featured on this, no way some person just did this. This has to be an algorithm.
Unfortunately, their paper isn't readily available to read anymore. You have to request a copy. And of course, I didn't take the proper screenshot, so just bear with me. I'm going to read what I can read, and then I can't really show what I want to show, but it is what it is.
So the study is called Evaluating the Scale, Growth, and Origins of Right-Wing Echo Chambers on YouTube. And they said they farmed their data from the YouTube API, that is the YouTube Application Programming Interface. It gives you a lot of interesting statistical data that would be good if the algorithm was on point, but it isn't in this aspect. In this case, it's totally just all over the place. It reminds me of a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2018, where the whole intellectual dark web, that cringy thing was happening, and somebody put this paper together that was like Charlie from It's Always Sunny, the conspiracy theories, where it's like, look at all these YouTubers. They're all connected in some way. This person was on this person's channel, and this person was on this person's channel, so then it was all just connected, and it wasn't even accurate as well. And I imagine it was the same type of algorithmic bullshit where, like, I'm like, why am I on this? Why am I on this list at all? Now I'm going to read the first paragraph of this paper so you guys can actually get a good feel for the purpose of this. Although it is understudied relative to the other social media platforms, YouTube is arguably the largest and most engaging online media consumption platform in the world. Recently, YouTube's outsized influence has sparked concerns that its recommendation algorithm systematically directs users to radical right-wing content. Here we investigate these concerns with large-scale longitudinal data of individuals' browsing behavior spanning January 2016 through December 2019. Consistent with previous work, we find that political news content accounts for a relatively small fraction, 11%, of consumption on YouTube, and it is dominated by mainstream and largely centrist sources. However, we also find evidence for a small but growing echo chamber of far-right content consumption. Users in this community show higher engagement and greater stickiness than users who consume any other category of content. Moreover, YouTube accounts for an increasing fraction of these users' overall online news consumption. Finally, while the size, intensity, and growth of this echo chamber present real concerns, we find no evidence that they are caused by YouTube recommendations. Rather, consumption of radical content on YouTube appears to reflect broader patterns of news consumption across the web. Our result emphasizes the importance of measuring consumption directly rather than inferring it from recommendations. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you have cookies, you're going to be recommended stuff that you're normally browsing, right? So across the web, if you're watching far-right content, you're going to be recommended far-right content. This is not just a YouTube thing, which is kind of like one of those, what did the kids used to say when I was like in 6th grade? No shit, Sherlock. Look, I don't usually say it on this main channel, but in passing, in other podcasts and whatnot, I've said that I've understood why people have thought that I am a conservative YouTuber. You know, if you don't watch me regularly, just a quick glance would probably give you that idea, because people are very binary when they think. They're like, oh, he spends a lot of time shitting on the left, so he must be right. You know, a lot of people don't think that, oh, you know, you can be on other ends of the spectrum and criticize the same end or a different one. It doesn't matter. Like, say, I've always considered myself in the center. It's the reason why I sell radical centrist shirts, where I made a joke saying, hey, if you're unreasonably reasonable, buy this fucking shirt, and you should.
If you're an unreasonably reasonable person and want to make sick gains in the gym.
I've talked to people, I've talked to prominent conservative figures, and hey, I would talk to prominent liberal, progressive ones if they would have me on. But a lot of times, I found that they had much more of an echo chamber because they didn't want to talk to anybody from the other side. That's what I see a lot, but now things have changed quite a bit. You're seeing people and platforms cross over a lot more because the poison has kind of died down, right? In the highest thing of the anti-SJW stuff, there was so much poison and just so much division. There were so many people that were basically the radicals on the left or the right that were spewing so much garbage, and it was so prominent that it was like, what the hell's going on? But a lot of that shit has died down naturally because this stuff comes in waves. Anyway, if you go back and look at my catalog, if you go through all the years, and probably when I started doing YouTube full time, like late 2016, there's nothing that just says, oh, this guy's straight up conservative. There's nothing, like, there's no conservative. I wasn't spewing any conservative values. Like I said, there's always going to be a little bit of crossover depending on what the subject is. Especially when it came to a lot of the progressive ideologues. You had the people that were on the progressive side that were being zealots. And so, of course, naturally, people on the right were not down for that. And they're like, oh, I like your content because you're shitting on these people. But of course, those people hated when I would go after their side. Just like with one of my last videos, talking about, you know, Biden winning the president elect and talking about the salty aftermath. They fucking hated that shit because obviously, when I think of conservative or conservative values, I think of religion and just preserving tradition, small government. I think of, you know, protecting the business and all that aspect and all that stuff. Like, I don't preach that stuff on my channel. You know, I'm definitely non-religious. You know, I don't have any reason to shit on religion on this channel. But I have, anytime that the subject came up, I've let people know that I'm like, I'm not down for that. Or say there's a lot of things when it comes to things being on the federal level, and when it comes to, say, healthcare, or when it comes to like income and actually helping people out, I'm totally down for that. When it comes to things like abortion, like I've not, you know, I don't preach any of these things that people would cherish and be like, oh, I'm conservative. I'm like, that's not me. Like, you just thought I was because of the things that I mentioned before, where some of the people that I've shat on, you're like, oh, he's shitting on these people, so he must be this. And I say, there aren't very many things in this life that are binary, that are just have one way or the other. There's almost always shades of gray. And also, I want to say that I don't think a lot of you are stupid if you thought I was conservative, because you probably just watched a handful of my videos, maybe one or two. Maybe you saw an interview I did with Jordan Peterson or something, and then you just assumed. That's fine. But like, there's long form interviews that I've given that would give you an idea of who I am, you know, and I've been saying the same shit for as long as I've been on this channel. You know, only little things have changed because I was wrong about something. You know, being enlightened about something is not you changing who you are. It's you just being a grown-up and being like, oh, I was wrong. And then you change your opinion on certain topics or certain issues. Anyway, I thought I'd just put this out here because I thought it was interesting, you know, to be a part of another one of these papers that collecting all this data, and it's just grossly inaccurate. Like, I'm sure Shoe on Head on her Brainlit channel has gone over this in detail, so I suggest you check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, obviously not far right. There are obviously some far right people on that list, but there is way too many people who are not even close to being on the right, or there's people that are very far left that were on that list as well, just because the algorithm couldn't differentiate. It's flawed. It's not a good sample. It's trash. But whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, I'll have a new video out soon and start preaching about ethno states.